The Constitutional Principles by Kaylee, Adam, Luke, Teresa, and John. Limited government. The Constitution limits the actions of government by specifically listing powers it does and does not have. The previous ruler, Great Britain, was a monarch, and that was not working. This led to specific rules and restrictions on government power. As you can see, there's a picture showing the limited government and how checks and balances also helps keep these three separate branches in line. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. Separation of powers. Each branch of government has its own specific responsibilities. Due to the king's absolute power, the Americans configured a concept which separated different governmental powers into three divisions: legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch. The legislative branch has the sole power to pass laws. The executive branch is the commander-in-chief and army of the U.S. An example of this is the President of the United States. Judicial branch has the power shall extend to all cases in law and equity. An example of this would be our Supreme Courts. As you can see, our picture describes the separation of the powers, how we have three separate branches. Federalism. Power is divided between national and state government. Government systems chosen for the U.S. because Great Britain was basically a dictatorship. The king did not give any of these basic rights to the people, especially the people who traveled overseas. As you can see, there is a pie chart symbolizing the national government versus state government and how they relate to each other and also differ. Federalism. Again, the power is not delegated to the U.S. by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So that means that whatever the Constitution does not state, the states themselves can dictate what they want to do with the laws. Popular sovereignty. The government is created and sustained by the consent of the people. Since the King of Britain had total control and abused it, the U.S. decided to give the power solely to the people. Thus, we created the democracy. And our quote is, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, domestic tranquility, and promote general welfare for the United States of America." People are the source of power. As you can see here, our picture depicts a man placing his vote into a vote box. This shows and displays that people are in power of who they want to be in charge of them and who will represent them. Checks and balances. Each branch of government exercises some control over the other branches. In order to prevent corruption of power, Americans implemented checks and balances. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall before it become a law be presented to the President of the United States. This is an example of the legislative branch having to be checked by the President of the United States. Therefore, checks and balances is in play. As you can see, this picture depicts all the branches of our government, including legislative, executive, and judicial. Each has a certain amount of power of the other and makes sure to keep them in line. In conclusion, power to the people is to popular sovereignty, as three separate governmental branches is the separation of power. We wanted to make sure, as the U.S., that power would be separated equally among everybody. Next, we covered control central to state government cooperation. This is the term federalism. Since the Articles of Confederation gave more power to the states, the people in the Constitution, such as James Madison, really configured to give the power to the central government. Corruption prevention. This is where checks and balances come in play. If it were not for checks and balances, some of the branches of government could take advantage of their power. Therefore, we have these corruption prevention, such as checks and balances, in order to keep them in line. And lastly, moderation of government connects to limited government. In order to keep our government from taking advantage of its power, we have to moderate it, and therefore we have limited government. Long live the people!